gross. I can hear myself. Ew. Alright, now we can begin the book again. I've gotten it's part 3. Alright. Hello, welcome. Maria. Hello. Hope you're doing well. And hello, Ron. Good stuff. So, I'll give a quick recap. Sort of, because although I've read a lot, not much has happened, to be fair, in comparison to the anime. So mine is a girl who got reincarnated as another person, or kind of the opposite around, where a girl named Urano from like Earth passed away, got reincarnated as this girl named Mine in this other world where it's more medieval, it's less advanced in technology, and they don't have books. That is one of the things that they don't have accessible. I mean, nobles can, people of higher like ranks can have those things, but it's not really common for regular people. And so in her previous life, she was a bookworm. All she did was read. And ironically, she passes away by a bookcase falling on her during an earthquake in Japan. So that is how she passes and gets isekai'd into this other world. A world with no books. And yeah, so she's just kind of adjusting to being a 5-year-old, going from being a like 22-year-old to a 5-year-old can be a big leap. And yeah, probably doesn't sound fun. She's also a sickly 5-year-old girl, and yeah, she's basically that. And so the last few chapters was just her adjusting and trying to find ways to get books, learning about the world, and also making things that they don't normally use in their world because she's used to it. Like the last part, she made shampoo out of oil from a plant that's similar to avocados, stuff like that. So she's like very smart for a 5-year-old, but no one seems to really like catch on yet, I guess. So yeah. So yeah, that's basically it so far. She has a mother, she has a sister, she has a father, and then a couple of friends from her sister. Her sister has a bunch of friends, and yeah, that is the cast so far. And the main character's name Mime, the sister's name is Tuli, and the mother is called Mom. I don't really know what their name is yet, so yeah, I'll explain as we go on because I know some people aren't here the whole time. But yeah, that works. Let's see. I'm gonna turn my gain up just a little bit, so if I'm too far away from the mic, you can still hear me. Alright. Learning to respect Egyptian culture. Now, despite resolving to make my own books no matter what, I couldn't manage to procure paper. My Japanese spirit suggested that I go to the department store and buy 500 sheets of copy paper for 200 yen. But in this world, a month of my dad's wages would disappear by buying a single sheet of parchment. Parchment is oh, I guess she explains what it is. To make a sheet of parchment, one would have to peel the skin off an animal, shave off the fur, and then cut the animal shaped skin into easy to use rectangles. The sheet of parchment I saw at Dad's workplace was about the size of a A4 piece of paper. No matter how I cut it, I'd get above 5 to 8 smaller sheets of paper at best. Also, for the visual, this is what mine looks like. That was her reaching for the door, trying to escape. In the previous chapters. Let's see here. In other words, parchment was so expensive that a poor commoner such as myself would never be able to buy a book's worth of it. To sum things up, before I can make books, I need to learn to make paper. But the only real experience I had making paper was recycling milk cartons. Everything else I had just read about in books. You would think learning something from a book would be enough to just do it, right? But think hard about that, and you'll realize that things really aren't that simple. As far as I knew, there were no machines. There were snow? There were no machines in this world for making paper. With no machine, I had to do all of the paper making work by hand. And yet, I was a sickly girl, as weak as a 3-year-old. There was little I could do on my own. The first step towards making paper was wood, and that alone was already a huge hurdle for me. In conclusion, it's impossible for me, but it was also too soon to give up. Since records were important both economically and politically, Earth had a very extensive recorded history. Records were kept for millennia, but it was only recently that humans developed machines for making paper. In short, the further back in history we went, the more likely it was that I would be able to recreate the methods used for recording information. What did these civilizations without machines do? I opened my hands as wide as possible and glared at my palms. Ancient civilizations. You can't talk about civilized ancient cultures without mentioning Egypt. And you can't talk about Egypt without mentioning papyrus. Long live Egypt. Through connecting the dots in my existing memories, I realized that I could make a faux papyrus with Egypt as my guide. It was invented in a society about as technologically advanced as this one, so perhaps even my small hands could be enough to make it. It was made using some kind of plant. I wasn't sure which, but I think it was just like made from fibers of especially straight trees and plants or something. This world had plants too. I bet if I went to the forest, it'd be filled with plants and perfect for making paper. It'd be filled with plants perfect for making paper. Okay, the forest. Let's go to the forest. I'm a woman who has both admired and lamented by my family and friends for how fast my footwork became when books were involved. I in fact, the moment I thought, I act the moment at thought comes to me. That's a very strange sentence. I get it. I act the moment a thought comes to me, so she's impulsive. Okay. In this case, I immediately asked Julie to take me with her to the forest. Julie, I want to go to the forest too. Can I come with? What? You might? No way. She shot me down before I even finished. Her reaction speed indicated she didn't even think about her answer, and the force of her no way probably reflected that she wouldn't budge no matter what I said. Ouch. Why not? You can't walk that far, can you? There's no way you can walk to the forest if you can't even make it to the gate. And once we get to the forest, we need to pick up firewood and gather fruit. There's no time to rest. Plus, you can't climb trees. Could you walk home carrying a lot of heavy stuff while tired? We need to make it back before the gate closes, so you couldn't rest no matter how tired you got, see? There's no way you can go to the forest. Tuli rattled off all the reasons I couldn't go to the forest one by one, counting on her fingers. There were a lot of reasons, but they could all be summed up as you're too weak. Plus, winter is coming soon, so there's less stuff there. According to Julie, it was likely that I would exhaust myself reaching the forest and then find nothing there I wanted. That would definitely be rough. I either had to go to the forest accepting it might be fruitless or give up on making paper. There was no easy way out. What do you want? I don't think there are many Merrills left. Tuli tilted her head as she thought hard about it, as Merrills were the main ingredient of my simple all-in-one shampoo. We were using all of them for our oil without eating any. We would then use the oil to moisturize our hair every now and again. I did appreciate all the Merrills, but I cared more about books than my looks. I needed plant fibers in order to make a faux papyrus. Are there plants in easily removed fibers? That's a weird question. Are there any plants with easily removed? Oh, okay. Huh? What? Totally gave me a confused look. Something I said there I had definitely been in Japanese. I thought I'd try to come up with a simpler way of saying it. Is there a plant with really straight stick stems? I just want the stems. Tuli put a hand on her head and thought about my question. Did I ring any bells? I waited patiently for her answer. After a brief pause, Tuli shrugged. I know, I'll just help Ralph and Lutz out. What? You'll help them? Not get them to help us? I tilted my head in confusion, which surprised Tuli for some reason. After blinking multiple times, she said, haven't we talked about this before? Ralph's family raises chickens, so they need a lot of animal feed to Lost someone to remember? No, I don't remember. Tilly sounded like she was saying things that I should know, so I replied, "That's true," while hiding my ignorance. So I was thinking I would try asking them for the stems if I help them gather the plants and stuff. But the season where lots of plants grow is already over, so I don't think there'll be any. Thank you for the follow. That's fine. Thanks, Tuli. Just like always, Tuli's been a great older sister, so I'm lucky to have her. The next day, I went with Tuli down the stairs and tried asking Ralph and Lutz for help. Thankfully, they accepted, but I couldn't leave everything to other people. I went on my own quest for plants. Luckily, there were plants growing by the well aside from the paved part. Maybe I could use those stems. Mom, I'll go with you to the well. Oh my, do you want to help? Nuh-uh. Not that. I want to gather plants. I showed her the small basket that Tuli made earlier. Okay, do your best. I had straight up declined to help her, but Mom still let me go with her. Excited that I was healthy enough to be moving around, I climbed down the stairs again, this time with Mom carrying a bunch of laundry. As that was my third time climbing down the stairs, I naturally ended up out of breath by the time I reached the bottom, which left me in no condition to be hunting for plants. I rested next to Mom as she drew water from the well and rubbed our clothes with strongly smelling animal soap, but that produced no bubbles whatsoever. Tuli was right. If I didn't get stronger somehow, I'd never make it to the forest. No matter how much I wanted plants from there, isn't there any way to get this body to be a little stronger? My, if it isn't mine. If it isn't a little mine. Good morning, I said. I didn't recognize her, but a middle-aged woman named Carla called out to us, sounding friendly. Oh, hello, Carla. Morning. You're up early. Mom smiled back and continued the conversation. So this was definitely someone mine knew. But who? I searched my memories, making sure not to make it obvious I didn't recognize her. Indeed, it was someone I knew. My memories told me it was Ralph and Lutz's mother. She was a somewhat sizable woman that seemed more or less dependable. Should I say something like this? Thanks for always taking care of me. No, a 5-year-old child would never say that. What kind of conversations do friendly middle-aged women have with neighborhood children? Someone help me. Carla began easily drawing water from the well and washing her clothes without looking at me despite the spinning thoughts. As expected, she used that stinky animal soap. Oh my. Also, thank you for the follows. Hello. Are you feeling well today? It's rare to see you outside. I'm getting plants. Ralph and Lutz said they needed them for your birds. My, you're doing that for us? Sorry for the trouble, Carla responded. Lightly enough, it was clear that she didn't feel particularly sorry. The band of neighborhood moms, mine included, talked amongst themselves without stopping. Their hands never stopped no matter who was talking. It was really impressive. Seriously though, The soap really did smell bad. I felt sick just resting near it. I wonder if it'd be better if I used some smell-blocking herbs? Or maybe the smells would combine and make something worse. While thinking up a countermeasure to the awful smell, I stood up to escape it and began pulling up some nearby plants. I wanted to pull out the thick stem plants with firm looking fibers, but I wasn't strong enough to pull them out on my own. I can't do this with my bare hands. Someone bring me a sickle. Of course, no one would bring me a sickle, and my weak arms aren't going to get stronger in a day. Okay, I give up. I'll just pull all my hopes on Tully, Ralph, and Lutz. I quickly gave up on pulling plants for my own needs, and instead selected those with soft-looking leaves and sprouts for the chickens. They were easy enough for me to pull despite my weakness. Mine, it's time to go home. Mom finished the laundry pretty fast. She called for me, holding a tightly packed tub of laundry. I had only filled up to about half of the small basket, but Mom had work today, so I couldn't ask her to stay. I went home carrying the tiny basket. Ready? Alright, let's go. Okay. I had been sick ever since becoming mine, with Mom taking days off from me and such, so I didn't know that when I was healthy, she would send me to a neighborhood babysitter for the day. Makes sense. Tully can't go to the forest when I'm at home. Mine, be a good girl while I'm at work. She'll be in your care. Gerda. Yes, come now, Mine. Gerda, the babysitter, was watching over several children other than me. Most of them were toddlers who were just old enough to walk on their own a little. In this city, once a child passed the age of 3 and grew stronger, they'd go with the older siblings to the forest or otherwise be old enough to help around the house and be left at home. In other words, my family trusted me so little. I was the same age as a toddler who couldn't be left alone at home. What's that supposed to mean? As I stood shocked by my family's lack of faith in me, I saw a young boy pick up a toy off the floor and start putting it in his mouth. Beside him, another boy smacked a little girl, making her cry. Hey, that's dirty. You'll get sick if you put that in your mouth. My, don't smack people for no reason. Why would you do that? Oh dear. Stop with the my's and oh dears. Do your job, Miss Gerda. Despite how I was another child being babysat, I was the largest kid around and thus ended up taking care of everyone else. While putting small children to sleep, I thought about how best to make the papyrus with the soon-to-be delivered stems. Honestly, I don't remember the proper method for making papyrus. I mean, it's never came up on any tests, so how can you blame me? Anyway, I remember reading that papyrus is surprisingly stiff. It was made by placing plant fibers vertically and horizontally together, but could only really write well on one side since the fibers were horizontal on the front and vertical on the back. There was a warning that it was very bendable either, but it wasn't very bendable either. But the book naturally hadn't mentioned how to actually make papyrus itself. The main problem was that despite having seen pictures of it, I couldn't think of a single way to make papyrus. I got the feeling that the fibers were lined up right next to each other, but couldn't think of how to get them to stick together. There goes my story. Okay, does it need sticky plant starch like washi does? Or maybe there's some special way to put it together. I thought back to the history book I had read and tried to wring out any useful information. I could, despite how few important details it contained for now. I figured the best thing to do was to take the fibers from the hardest looking stems and try weaving them together in a plaid-like pattern. That should make usable paper even without some kind of glue to stick them together. As long as I can write letters on it, it'll be fine. Mine, Julie's here for you. Julie came to get me that evening after returning from the forest. I am saved, thank goodness. She came to get me. Overjoyed, I clung to her. Gerda's style of babysitting hadn't been to take care of the kids, but to rather leave them on their own unless things got dangerous. If they peed on themselves, she wiped them with a wet cloth, and that's it. The room smelled of waste, and it was hard for me to bear watching kids get treated like that, especially with my Japanese values and still intact. I can't believe she's getting paid for this. The worst thing is, no matter how much I wanted to help, it was a problem too. Big for my hands. I couldn't babysit the children myself. Gerda's style of babysitting may be normal for this world. People might end up considering me the weird one if I complain too much. I had spent all my time waiting desperately for someone to come get me, wanting to escape the horrid conditions as soon as possible. Did you get lonely, mine? I guess it's been a long time since you've stayed here. You could go with us to the forest if you were just a little bit stronger. Hope you can come with us by the next time spring comes, mine. As Tully patted my head and both Lutz and Ralph consoled me, I realized that I absolutely did not have to get stronger no matter what. Oh, I absolutely did have to get stronger no matter what. I needed to take it seriously. Being this weak was causing me nothing but problems. Oh, right. We got those plant stems you wanted. Ralph grabbed some of the stems from the basket and showed me. The moment I saw them, everything about Gerda vanished from my mind. Books were more important than her, and paper meant books. That's a lot, thanks. I gathered some plants for you at the well, too. I puffed out my chest with pride, but for some reason all three of them just patted my head. Not only that, but Lutz even said, "You did good," with a warm smile while looking down at me. Just how useless do these people think I am? I mean, it's true that I never do anything and I'm useless all the time, but still. Tilly went and got the tiny basket so we could exchange all of our plants for the stems we gathered. Okay, it's time to make some papyrus. Winter preparations. That is the next chapter. Hello, hello. I'm doing alright. How about you? Let's see here. I'm gonna make the font actually smaller. Seems too big to read up close. Okay. I intended to immediately start making papyrus with the gathered stems, but unfortunately life got in the way. Just think of where you're going, mine. Didn't I tell you that we're starting winter preparations? Oh, really? Well, welcome. It's awesome. You've been converted to an ASMR enjoyer. Hey, you know, if you don't want to listen to the book, there is an anime as well, but it only goes up to like book 5, I think, and then after that, the anime hasn't had any more seasons, so you'll have to read the book to figure out what happens. Okay, just where do you think you're going, mine? Didn't I tell you that we were starting winter preparations today? Right as I was about to leave, go to the well and get the fibers out of the plant stems, Mom grabbed the back of my shirt and stopped me. Apparently, snowfall was about to lock us in. Alright, there we go. Just need a minute to wrist my vocal cords. Alright. Let's see. Winter preparations. But why do I need to help when I'm so useless? No matter how much I scored. What does that mean? Oh, scoured. Okay. No matter how much I scoured Mine's memories, all I got were memories of her catching colds and just lazing around, being useless. Basically, to say it again, I was completely useless. The best thing I could do was not get sick and end up in the bed all day. You're helping me today, mine. Come on. What about work, Dad? I have a few days off. We workers gotta take turns staying home from work if any of us wanna finish preparing, yeah? Wow, jobs are so nice enough to give time off for winter preparations. I didn't expect to see that kind of work working class benefit in this world. Or maybe winter preparations are just so rough that they're impossible without a man around the house. Either way, it was rare for Dad to be at home and spend a lot of quality time with me. Oh, that was loud. Oops. I gotta tighten the stand. Oops, my bad. Either way, it was rare for Dad to be at home and spend a lot of quality time with me. As long as you might expect from his occupation as a soldier, he was more of a meathead than anything. What? Okay, that's kind of mean. And generally spent his time with Julie, who was healthy enough that he could take her places without worrying. But now that everyone is home, I had no opportunity to escape. And since Dad had specifically requested my help, I had no choice but to give up and obey. What do we need to do? Dad answered with while squatting in front of the window and preparing what looked like carpenter tools. Today we're gonna check to see if anything needs fixing. The shutters will be locked tight during the snowstorm, so we need to make sure that none of the hinges are loose or rusted. While we were at it, we'll look for holes. Once we're done with that, we'll clean the chimney and the furnace so we can use them without issue over the winter. Dad? What are you expecting from my weak little arms that I can't hold anything or even use a screwdriver? They had screwdrivers back then? What? Is that like known? Or like been around for a long time? I guess this is a fantasy setting, so maybe. Hello, hey Gumi. Hey Dauntless. I wouldn't think they would have screwdrivers, but we'll see. I understood that we needed to, but even then, I couldn't imagine I would be helpful at all. Though maybe if I tried super hard and showed that I could be helpful, my family's faith in me would go up in a little. My family's faith in me would go up a little. It should be simple to find rusted or loose hinges with my modern knowledge. Dad, this hinge and its nails are rusted. Those will last. I'm pretty sure they're like on the verge of breaking off. They're a mess. I briefly considered whether or not I should trust Dad. It'd be a big problem if a window door meant to block a snowstorm broke during the middle of winter. I stood on a chair and I tried shaking the window door a little. If nothing happened, I could trust Dad, but if it broke, then he should learn to trust me. After shaking the door a few times, the hinges loudly snapped into two. I nodded to myself since that was what I expected, but Dad paled and stared at me when shaking the door with wide eyes. "My, did you do that? See, it broke. I told you it wouldn't last all winter. Now, Dad, fix it." I pointed at the window door, and Dad ignored his mistake in judgment, lifted me off the chair while sighing. "Mine, go help Effa." "What? But I'm helping you, Dad." "We need to make sure all the hinges won't break during the winter. But you're ignoring the real bad ones." I shrugged and shook my head. "Mom told me to help Dad, so I would. This was all for the sake of making my winter as comfortable as possible. We don't have the money to fix all of them, and at this rate, it'll break all of them. Go help Effa. No, money's the problem here too? I having destroyed that hinge Dad had intended to treasure for a little longer. Obediently, I followed his instructions and went to the bedroom where Mom and Tilly were. They were drying our shades and blankets to make them more usable, moving our bed to the wall closest to the furnace to make nights a little warmer, and just setting up the room to be more livable in the winter. What's wrong, Wine? Dad told me to come help you, Mom. Really? We've just about finished here, so we're about to start preparing the lights. We luckily ended up with extra beeswax this year. We're also going to use beef tallow and fruits to make candles and oil for lamps. That all sounds like a real pain. I had been smelling the nasty scent of animal oil wafting from the nearby homes for several days. And just imagining the smell, the same smell, or the same stink from my own kitchen made me depressed. Tilly started work on extracting oils from the fruit, but since I was too weak to wield the hammer, well, I had no excuse. I could only watch beside Mom as she put beef tallow into the largest pot and set it over the fire. It stinks so bad. Stay strong, me. Despite the smell being so bad, I could barely breathe. Mom casually melted the tallow and picked out the dregs that rose to the surface. Surprisingly, however, that was all she did before starting to finish up. Wait, Mom, that's all? You're not going to salt it out? Come again? Oh no, I guess this is obvious, but salted out didn't get translated. Mom shot me a little glare and said, "Are you complaining about my work?" But I swallowed my fear and tried to explain what salting out was in a simple terminology as possible. You put salt water in and then boil it a bit to get more junk out of it. Salt water? If you leave it for a bit afterwards, the oil will harden on top. And let's see. If you leave it for a bit afterwards, the oil will harden on the top and leave just the salt water on the bottom, right? You can pour it out and just use the pure oil. It's a bit more work, but the oil will smell better and be higher quality. As if reacting to the phrase higher quality, Mom began salting the oil out. The quality of the oil we make here was a matter of life or death for me. After all, we'd be using oil in a closed room. I wouldn't be able to survive in a stinky home for an entire winter. Well, I couldn't tell her exactly what ratio of salt water to oil is best, but it should still end up better. We went to we went with a pretty arbitrary ratio, but thanks to the salting, the yellowed tallow became pure white. The tallow was then split into two parts, some to be used for candles and some to be used for soap come the spring. The candle part was put back into the pot and melted again. Alright. As an aside, the tiny chunks of meat that came out of it after filtering the tallow were used as a pretty tasty soup base. Yum yum. You say, I heard my catchphrase being yours. What is your catchphrase? Also, hello, Skull. How are you? And you, what's going on? And thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. Let's see. Okay, wait. What's my job? All three of them started their own jobs, so after a moment's thought, I followed Mom out of the front door. Maybe go help your mother, included this. Oh, did I say that? I don't remember. Maybe go help your mother included this, but after noticing me, Mom told me to go back inside. Mine, help Tilly make the candles. Be sure not to get in the way. Okay. Sheesh. Why do they trust me so little? I returned to the kitchen and saw Tilly cutting strings into identical lengths and hanging several of them at a time from little sticks. She then took a stick and held it in such that the strings dripped onto the pot of melted tallow before lifting it. Up and down, over time, the oil sticking to the string hardened, fattened, and then began looking like a candle. Wow, so that's how you make candles. Don't just watch mine, help. Tilly was mad, so in order to help, I grabbed some smell-blocking herbs and stuck them to some of the hardened candles. If these worked, I would put more herbs into all of them. Mine, don't play around. Just these, okay? You don't want to touch, you don't want candles that don't stink too, Tilly, please. Definitely just these, understand? Tilly drove that home, so I gave a big nod. I didn't know whether or not it would work, so I had no intention of messing with all of them. I put different herbs into each candle so I would be able to see which one worked best. While Tilly and I made candles, our parents were preparing firewood. Without it, we would undoubtedly freeze to death, so making sure we had enough ready was absolutely vital. Dad took both wood and Thule, both the wood Thule had picked plus extra wood we bought, and used an axe to chop it into 50-centimeter long sticks. Mom then took the cut firewood and brought it into the winter storage room. Where are you going, Mom? I was surprised to see Mom going into a room I didn't know about, that I followed after her. It was news to me, but there was another room inside our normal storage room. Apparently, it was generally only used for winter preparations. About half of the room was already packed with tons of wood. What? I didn't know that about this room. It's our winter storeroom, remember? How could you ever forget that, mine? Thinking of which, I had been wondering where Tully put all that wood she came back with every day. Now I knew. Since the wood we normally use was put in the general storage room, I never noticed there was another one deeper inside. It's cold here. Of course it is. This room is the furthest from the hearth. What's a hearth? I'm assuming it's like a furnace. Our home didn't have anything fancy like a fireplace, so the hearth slash makeshift oven in the kitchen was the only source of heat in the entire house. We would generally spend all of our time there. And now our beds were pressed against a singular wall, separating them from the hearth. As long as fire was burning inside, which was when we children went to bed, it was surprisingly warm, but it was only warm at the start. Mom would put out the fire before bed, so the room was ice cold in the morning. On the other hand, this winter storeroom was the furthest room from the house, in the house and from the hearth, so it was super cold. It was the perfect place to put preserved food, oil, and other things we needed. For the winter, in other words, it was natural fridge. It was a natural fridge. Oh, I see. So it was cold enough to preserve food. Hello, Garukin. How's it going? We didn't want it getting warm. There's a lot of firewood here. It's still barely enough, you know. Even though half of the room's full. I looked at the firewood and stacked the winter storeroom. What? I looked at all the firewood stacked in the winter storeroom, and the word deforestation passed through my mind. If a single family burned this much wood, how much wood was the entire city using? Mine, don't start daydreaming. It's time to prepare for a winter handiwork. I'm not daydreaming, I protested. But Mom was already heading to the kitchen. I hurriedly chased after her, but I didn't want to be left alone in the dark room with no windows. Also, thank you for the hydrate. And the stretch. Could use a stretch. So, they're preparing for winter. I don't remember. I don't know. Was this in the anime? I can't really remember if it was in the anime. It was probably really brief. I don't really remember there being much winter. I don't really remember that. Excuse me. How are you guys doing? Are you eepy? Are you getting tired? I hope this is relaxing. I know I keep messing up like every other sentence, but I hope it's relaxing for you guys. not the best reader in the world, but I try. It's nice, like, after watching the anime, I feel like that's probably why a lot of people appreciate when there's, when we say, like, anime adaptations or movie adaptations of books or manga, because you can kind of already visualize everything because the show. So it's like, it's easier to, like, imagine because everything's already kind of there. Yeah, I was just giving my throat a break. I was reading quite a bit today, so it's a bit exhausting, you know, just a little bit. How you guys doing? Browsing the web as I do it. Yeah, whenever I muted, I put this thing up right here just to let people know that I'm muted. But yeah, it's a good story. I'm excited. Like, it's gonna take a while to get caught up to the actual show through the book. I want to know what happens. They kind of just leave it. Oh, whoops. Although I didn't finish the last 2 episodes of this series, I figured I got the gist of what happened and just started reading the books because I knew I wasn't gonna get the satisfaction I wanted from the very short anime. I want the full scoop, you know? Not just the little bit. Thank you for the follow, hello. Let's see. My stomach. I can't live without like weird noises happening every so often, I swear. Okay. Already, it is officially time to start drinking the energy drink I got for this very. There it goes again. You guys can hear it. I bet you can. I can hear it. It's like a little like gurgle sound. Alright. Alright. Let's continue. Where did I leave off? Degen hours. Oh boy. Fairly tame for Degen hours. Let's see here. Mom, what do you mean by handiwork? Well, men fix the tools they use at work, I suppose. If we intend to make new tools or furniture, we need to gather the materials ahead of time. Whoops. So it's like work we do over the winter while we're stuck inside? Mom nodded, while counting how many spools of thread we had. That's right. It's important that we women make clothes, remember? We won't be able to do that without preparing thread and dyeing cloth ahead of time. I've already finished all that since I work as a dyer, but we still need to prepare the wool and the plants, like nylon, and that we'll be weaving next year. Huh? Not to mention, Tuli's baptism is next summer. I need to prepare for her special dress during the winter. Mom looked around with a deadly serious expression, making sure she had everything she needed. I got the feeling that I would just get in the way no matter what. So I slid back over to where Tuli was. What's your winter handiwork going to be, Tuli? I'm going to make baskets. We'll sell them when the spring comes. Tuli was preparing her basket, making materials which would serve as her handiwork. She was taking some wood. She was taking some of the wood she gathered in the forest to the well and peeling off its bark. She would then run the knife along the fibers to split the wood apart. What'll you be doing, mine? Is that a sentence? What? Oh, what will you be doing, mine? I'm making papyrus. What's that? It's a secret. I followed Tuli's example and started preparing the fibers I needed for my winter handiwork, making papyrus. This was an important job for me. A respectable job that nobody would get mad at me for doing. To get the fibers out, I basically just need to do what Tuli was doing. Probably. Peel off the outer layer of the stems, soak them in water, and then let them dry. Winter preparations began before Tuli and the others could get to many stems, so I decided to just take them all apart for fibers. Tuli, I want some water too. Okay. Tuli, how do you think I should get the fibers out of these stems? Tuli, they won't get blown away if I dry them in the window, right? I bundled up the completed fibers. There weren't many of them, but there were probably enough to make one or two sheets of papyrus. With that, my own winter preparations were more or less finished. Phew, I worked really hard here. Wait, what? Is it just me or does Tully look annoyed? Stone Slight Gat. That is the next chapter. The most important thing to prepare for winter was food. Unlike Japan, there weren't supermarkets open every day, every year. Barely any crops could be grown or harvested, and the market would barely open due to the weather. If you didn't want to starve to death, you had to prepare ahead of time, which is why I was currently sitting outside the back of a covered wagon between the two loads of stuff packed into it. It all started when Dad woke us all up at the crack of dawn. Alright, we're going to the farm today. Everyone ready? No, of course not. What the heck is going on? I rubbed my sleepy eyes and glared at Dad, but Mom and Tully both nodded enthusiastically with big happy smiles. I was the only one not understanding. Oh, right. Mine was sick when this was decided, so she might not have heard about it. Mom clapped her hands together and both Tully and Dad nodded in agreement. It felt like I was being left out and excluded from the rest of the family, which didn't feel great. I pouted a little, cheeks puffing out, but everyone started preparing immediately. They didn't seem to have the time to worry about me. Anyway, we need to keep warm. I remember you getting a fever last year, mine. Mom called out to me while carrying stuff down the steps. I was in the middle of changing clothes since given that they wouldn't let me stay home alone. I had no choice but to go along with them. Why are we going to a farm in the far-off village anyway? I had intended to walk at least part of the way to the village in order to build up strength. But I was so excessively slow that Dad got frustrated and put me in a wagon. There really wasn't any space for me, so I huddled into as small of a bowl as possible. In the wagon there were several barrels of varying size, plenty of empty bottles, string, cloth, salt, and wood. It was all important stuff for what we were doing at the farm. Probably? Wait. Am I the most useless thing in this wagon? Dad was pulling the wagon from the front while Mom and Tully pushed it back from the back. It kind of felt like I was being serious dead weight, which again made me feel bad. Mom, why are we going to the farm? There's no smokery in the city, remember? We're going to rent the one in the nearest farming village. We're going to smoke meat? That reminds me, we bought lots of meat at the market. But I feel like she already boiled or salted most of it. There's that much left? Shouldn't it be bad by now? Is it okay? I started counting the days on my fingers worried, but Mom just looked at me with exasperation. What are you even talking about? Today's pig day. We'll buy 2 pigs at the farm, split into groups, and prepare them, and then share that meat. What? For an instant, my ears blocked what Mom said. There was a brief but clear time lag between me hearing that the noise, and the noise reaching my brain. And when it did, I started to tremble. Pig day? What? The day when we and our neighbors gathered together, butcher a pig, salt it, and smoke it, and make it bacon, sausage, and other sorts of meats. Goodness mine, don't you remember last year? Oh, actually, you got a fever in the cart on our way there. Honestly, I want to get a fever this year too. At least then I won't have to watch it happen. Mom, didn't you buy a lot of meat at the market a bit ago? You should know that wouldn't be enough. In fact, that was just extra meat to supplement the pigs. Interesting. Alright, I'm back. Take over a bit. Okay, so where was I? Not to mention, Tully's baptism is this next summer. I need to prepare her special dress for the winter. Mom looked around with a deadly serious expression, making sure she had everything she needed. I got the feeling that I would just get in the way no matter what. Oh wait, I think I already read that. Right. Let's see. Where did I leave off? The pig day. Honestly, I want to get a fever this year too. At least then I won't have to watch it happen. Mom, didn't you buy a lot of meat at the market a bit ago? You should know that wouldn't be enough. In fact, that was extra meat to supplement the pigs. I had thought she bought more than enough meat before, but apparently it was all just extra meat, not even the main event. I couldn't even imagine just how much meat was necessary to last in the winter. In sharp contrast to my depression over being unable to avoid seeing pigs getting butchered, Tully was wearing a bright, full smile as she pushed the cart. There's lots of fun stuff about today. We get to taste the meat in the middle of it, and there's fresh sausage for dinner. It's great. This is the first time you'll be helping mine, but it's kind of like a festival everyone gets excited for. I'm glad we get to go together this year. Everyone, I blinked in confusion, and Mom replied with a expression that practically said, "Don't ask questions with such obvious answers." Who could we do? Who would we do it with if not our neighbors? Butchering the pigs is a serious job. It can't be done without at least 10 adults. Ugh, our neighbors. Mine had a lot of vague memories, so there were definitely going to be a bunch of people who knew me that I didn't know. Not only would dealing with them be a pain, but we're going to be butchering a pig on top of that. Just remembering what I saw at the market, it was enough to make a chill run down my back. I don't want to go. What are you talking about? We won't have any sausage or bacon all winter if we don't go. We needed the meat for the winter, so naturally we wouldn't turn around even if I said I didn't want to go. I had to participate no matter how little I wanted to go. I sighed, depressed, and soon our cart reached the southern gate of the outer wall. Wait, Captain, aren't you late? Everyone else passed through a long time ago. Yeah, I figured. One of Dad's co-workers called out to him as we passed through the gate. Apparently your neighbors had left for the farm a long time ago. Stay safe. A younger looking guy who looked like he probably liked children waved at me, so I waved back. Polite decency was important in all things. Wow. The moment our cart rumbled out of the small tunnel, that was the southern gate. I let out a tiny cry of surprise. It was the first time I have left the city walls since becoming mine. To be honest, I didn't expect things to be so different outside. First of all, there were no buildings outside the city. Inside the city, it was tight, never-ending clusters of buildings, but the second we go outside of the gates, there was a wide road with only about 10 to 15 shacks strewed on the about? What does that mean? What are shacks strewn about? I don't know what that means, but we're gonna just continue. On top of that, the air was nice. The more open air and the more the smell of waste was diluted. I suppose, and for the first time in a long time, I remembered that air could taste good. There were no tall walls to block all the smells inside. I looked around and saw a field of crops on one side of me and a forest of tall trees on another. The scenery was impossibly tranquil and the very definition of idyllic. Mine, close your mouth. You're gonna bite your tongue off. Huh? Right after Dad warned, the cart began rattling and up and down, even worse it did in the town. The city road had shifted from cobblestone to just normal dirt road with mounds and hills. It was shaking so hard that I thought all of our stuff would fall out, but at least they had ropes holding them down. I was in the most danger of all since I wasn't locked down whatsoever. I clung tightly to the side of the cart for my own safety. This kind of road is worse. On sunny days, they're super bumpy. On rainy days, they are a muddy mess. Learn how to make asphalt already. I spat angry complaints on the inside and so felt Dad. And soon felt Dad speed up. We had arrived at the village. It was about 15 minutes away from the town gate, and after passing through the entryway, I could hear lots of people talking. Almost there. Butchering the pig was mainly a job for men. They had to hold down beasts that looked like they weighed over 100 kilograms, not to mention tie them up and hang them from their feet. It was a job that took a lot of strength. While they were doing that, the women could prepare the smokery, boil lots of water, and prepare salt and tools for preservation. By the time we reached to the village, the butchering was already beginning. Those who didn't participate naturally didn't get any meat. Crap. It's starting. Afa, Tuli, hurry. And take your places. Oh no. Run, Tuli, right. All three of them let go of the cart and grabbed wax coating aprons made from some thick material and put them on. Once Mom and Tilly got on theirs, they rushed over to the smokery where a bunch of women already were. Dad put on his apron too and ran off after grabbing a spear, which was probably an important tool here. What? Everyone's so fast. My family had all ran off before I could even process what's happening. I could have run after Mom, but I wouldn't want to be standing around in a crowd with no idea what to do. It was a yearly ritual for these people, so there's probably a ton of unspoken rules. If only I had a manual, knowing that I would just get in the way no matter what I did. I decided to wait in the cart until someone called for me. This is important work, too. I told myself while sitting on top of the abandoned cart, doing nothing in particular. Unfortunately, however, my dad had left the cart right in the middle of the pig slaughtering field. There was a little distance between us, but I could clearly see the pig squealing in pain and the fear while running away from its pursuers. There was a wooden stake driven into the ground, collected by rope to the pig's right hind leg. It fled in a circle around the stake while the men chased after it, desperate to pin it down. I saw a familiar pink head in the crowd. It was Ralph and Lutz, definitely around there somewhere. Go get him! Screaming out battle cries. Dad participated in the chase. He readied the spear with immense speed and then stabbed it right into the pig. That single strike was enough for the pig to start convulsing, legs twitching before it stopped moving entirely. I let out a tiny shriek, but all the men let out a cheer at what had been done. Mom rushed forward with a metal bucket-looking thing and somewhat long stick. Another woman brought a bowl thing to the pig, and a moment later, blood sprayed everywhere, dyeing several people's aprons dark red. Dad had probably pulled the spear out after the blood gathering bucket and bowl were prepared. I covered my mouth and I felt myself shake with terror. I couldn't see the pig due to all the women's aprons crowding around, but I could see how mechanically the women was gathering blood in the bowl and pouring it into a bucket. Mom furrowed her brows with a little Mom furrowed her brows a little while firmly stirring all the blood being poured into her bucket. Mom looks really scary right now. Afterwards, a bunch of people worked together to hang the pig upside down from a tree that had been prepared beforehand. The blood they hadn't managed to squeeze out of the pig began dripping down to the ground. The real butchering was about to begin. A man with a thick butchering knife walked up and pressed it against the pig's stomach. That was the last thing I remembered before I knew it. I was in a stone building, not one I had seen in the village. I could see the ceiling since someone had laid me onto my back, but I wasn't home. It wasn't my home ceiling. I blinked several times, still on my back, and then remembered what I had seen before passing out. It made me feel sick, but for some reason, something felt really really familiar about the pig being butchered. What was it? Like something being hung upside down and then being cut apart? It was on the tip of my tongue, but it just wouldn't come out. If I had to guess, it wasn't one of mine's memories. It was one of Yurino's memories. I must have seen something similar in Japan. It looked like that fish I saw being hung upside down in a coastal Ibaraki market. From that perspective, I could understand why everyone was so excited about the pig. I remember how excited people were to eat fish that fresh. Well, I can understand, but it's still a bit emotionally rough for me. I mean, the fish didn't scream in pain like that, and it didn't gush out blood. Ugh, so gross. I rolled over holding my mouth and fell right off what I was laying on. Ow. I used my hands to stand up and look around, seeing immediately that I had been resting on a smallish wooden bench. There was burning fireplace nearby, so it wasn't cold, but nobody was around, and I couldn't hear anybody talking. Oh, right, where am I anyway? The moment I decided I needed to figure out where I was, a soldier peeked into the room, maybe due to having heard me fall. Oh, finally awake, huh? Oh, Mr. Otto. I let out a sigh of relief, glad to see someone I knew. A stone building with Otto inside can only mean I was at the gate in one of the waiting rooms. My anxiety melted away after I learned where I was. That means you remember me, right? Otto looked visibly relieved that I remembered him. That made sense. I was a child on the outside. After all, he definitely thought that I would have started crying if I saw someone I didn't know. I could never forget you. I mean, you're the first man of culture I've met in this world and my future teacher. How could I forget? I mimicked the chest tapping salute, to which Otto laughed a little and rubbed my head. The captain rushed back here with you in tow. He said that you collapsed at the in the cart. He'll be back as soon as he's finished with what he needs to do. I didn't know how long it would take to butcher a pig, but they had prepared the meat afterward too, so I couldn't imagine it would be over soon. Thinking about it, Tilly said we would get fresh meat for dinner. Yes, I'll be waiting here for a while. Knowing that I would end up with plenty of spare time, I had put the materials I needed for papyrus into the cart, but they were out of my reach. What's wrong, mine? Feeling lonely without your mom or dad? No, I was thinking about how I could kill some time. I shook my head and said what I was really thinking. Otto looked at me for a hard bit, then whispered, Did he say he wasn't as young? Did he say she wasn't as young as she looked? And nodded to himself. I might have something that can help mine. How about this? Wow, the slate. Otto held out the slate. He knew for sure we'd be passing by the gate today, so he had brought it with him to give it to me. A man of culture that considerate about other people. Mr. Otto is such a great person. I need to go back and stand at the gate, but go ahead. Practice this while I'm gone. Otto wrote mine, at the top of the slate before setting down the slate, pen and cloth. He then left the room. I hugged the slate with one arm and waved at Otto goodbye with the biggest smile of my life before dropping my gaze back down to the slate. The best way to explain it was to call it a mini chalkboard. About the size of a A4 piece of paper, a dark, thin stone set onto a wooden frame. Both sides would be written on, and one of them had lines for practicing letters. The slate pen was a writing tool specifically for slates, and although I could tell it was a thin stone from touch, it looked entirely like a thin piece of chalk. With somewhat dirty cloth was the way to clear off the slate. It would probably do a good job given how the letters Otto wrote got a little blurry just from me hugging the slate. My heart is beating so fast. I put the slate onto the table and held the pen. Just gripping the slate pen like a pencil made my heart race. I started off by copying Otto's letters, none of which I recognized at all. I was so nervous writing the first letters of my second life that they ended up all twisted and shaky. Hello. Thank you so much for the bits. We're doing alright, Jojo. Thank you. Let's see. If I were in Japan, I likely would have shaken my head and wiped them away immediately to try again, but it has been so long since I had seen letters that I couldn't take my eyes off them. I was so happy. Oh, an illustration. It's been a while. Okay, I'll screenshot this and show you guys. So the bookworm finally got something to write on. That is an achievement. Okay. Here is the page in part 3. Very cute. It is mine. Writing in the chalkboard. I guess it's called a slate in this world. But basically a chalkboard. I took a deep breath, exhaled, and wiped the letters away with the cloth next to the slate. And tried again. There's myself being annoying. Things went a lot better the second time. I wrote my name, erased it, and wrote it, erased it. When I got bored of that, I wrote little poems and song lyrics, Japanese, then erased them. Then wrote them, then erased them. Ah, this is bliss. I never would have thought that writing letters could make me so happy. Despite being near the furnace, the waiting room was so drafty that after spending hours of playing with the slate and waiting for my family, I caught a cold in record time and ended up in bed with a fever. You still have a fever, mine, so stay in bed, no getting out. Okay, my parents busily walked around in and out of the house as they carried root vegetables into the winter storeroom. Tuli was in the kitchen making jam out of fruit and honey that she had gathered herself. In this world, all it took was a sweet scent drifting through my home to make me happy. While they were in the middle of washing away beer and the prepared pig, Julie brought me my soup lunch. I put aside my stone slate and took the whole tray from her. Sorry, Tilly. Seriously, this is a real pain. Oh, what? Didn't you promise not to say that? I never promised that. I mean, okay, you didn't promise that, but isn't it still like an unspoken promise? While everyone else was exhausting themselves preparing for winter, I was lying in bed and playing around with the slate Otto gave me, practicing my name and having fun writing in Japanese. But I really wanted a book that would preserve writing permanently. If writing some letters was all it took to get me this happy, I figured reading a book would make me absolutely ecstatic. I need to hurry up and get healthy again so I can make paper. Alright. The next chapter is called Beaten by Ancient Egyptians. Tiny bits of snow began to fall here and there. They're right as we were on the verge of finishing our preparations. Winter was coming for real. During winter, our neighborhood would end up snowed in, and we generally spend all of our time inside the house. Especially sunny days. I normally spend all of my time inside anyway, like the shut-in I was, so that wasn't really a problem for me. But there were no books in this world. Will I survive as a shut-in without books around me? Blizzards often occurred when the winter began falling, so we needed to keep our windows and doors shut tight for warmth. We then stuffed somewhat thick rags into any cracks to block as much wind as possible. Oh, so dark. It's a blizzard. What do you expect? It caught me off guard that the only sources of light in the locked up house were the furnace and our candles. It was the first time I've been inside a completely dark room in the middle of the day. It hurt to live without electricity. Even back in my Urano days, I had a phone and flashlights, and when typhoons knocked out the power, and usually it got fixed by the next day. Won't we all get depressed spending weeks in the dark like this? Hey Mom, is everyone's house this dark? I believe those with decent amount of spare money tend to have several lamps around their homes to light things up. But we only have one. What? We have a lamp and we aren't using it? I figured that the best way to use any light source we had, but Mom just sighed and shook her head. We try to avoid using lamps since we need to be frugal with oil. You wouldn't want to run out of candles if the winter drags on, would you? There was no argument against being frugal. Even my mom back in Japan did all sort of things in the name of saving money. She would unplug the TV from the wall to save on electricity bill, and yet falling asleep with it still on. She'd cut off the water when brushing her teeth to save on water, but leave it on when washing dishes. In other words, my mom taught me the importance of self-satisfaction. I decided to take after my mom's frugal ways and see if I could finagle a way to get the room a little bit brighter. What are you doing, mine? I think this might make the room a little brighter. With a 3-sided mirror magnification properties in my mind, I polished my dad's metal gauntlets that he had apparently used in the past war and lined them next to a candle. Stop it, mine. It's harder to see now. They both immediately shot me down. Unfortunately, the gauntlets weren't flat slabs of metal, and the surface wasn't exactly the smoothest. The light reflected in all sorts of directions and shined in their eyes, making it harder to see their hands. It didn't work. I wonder if there's something else I can use, like a mirror. I wouldn't appreciate it if you would stop wasting your time. Mom shot me down with a firm tone, so I gave up on my light reflecting strategy. But still, having diminished eyesight didn't feel that great. Regardless of whether or not I had any books, I took up camp right next to the warm furnace. Not long after that, Mom began setting up her loom near me. It wasn't a large machine like those I had seen in Japan, but it was something a lot more fundamental. I had been wondering how one could weave cloth in a house this small, but it seemed there was looms small enough to do the job. Tuli, since your baptism is coming up, there's a lot I need to do to teach you, said Mom before beginning to teach Tuli all she needed to know about weaving. Tuli took a spool of thread in hand, looking deadly serious. You put the thread here, then prepare the, I don't know what that says, weft? You weave the thread like this, using the thread she had dyed in the fall for this purpose. Using the thread she had dyed in the fall for this purpose, she started weaving the cloth. The wove cloth, sewn it into clothing, and embroidered it. While she was at it, she prepared the next year's thread from the wool she had bought. Well, only ever bought the base materials. No new clothes were sold where we lived, so even cloth was so expensive for commoners to buy. That's right, just like that. You've got a knack for this, Julie. Mine, would you like to try too? They say that no beauty doesn't know how to sew. What? Beauty? That's right. Creating clothes for your family is important, both practically and to show off to your neighbors. You can't be a true beauty if you're not good at sewing or cooking. Oh, I'm definitely not gonna grow up into a beauty then. And I mean, I understand all that being important for a good wife, but what do cooking and sewing have to do with being beautiful? I was used to clothes being something you bought at a store. Go to the store and you'd be surrounded by clothes with all sorts of varying designs. I never was very interested in them, just wearing whatever I thought would get me through something. Without getting yelled at, but even so, my closet ended up packed with clothes. At the very least, I never wore hand-me-downs that had to be sewn up. Sewing was just something I did a few times in school, and those times I had just used an electrical sewing machine to finish in no time. The best I could do with needles was reattach a fallen button. To say it outright, expecting me to consider making thread, weaving cloth, and sewing clothes for a family over winter as some important things was just asking for too much. I could say with confidence that I would never, ever care that much about it. I never feel motivated to do it. Though I would sew until my hands fell off. I could use the cloth as parchment. You don't want to join mine? Maybe next time. Tuli wanted me to join, but I really just didn't want to sew anything. Mom was teaching Tuli since she wanted to become an apprentice seamstress, but in my case, I lacked the height, the hand size, and of course the motivation. Teaching me would be a waste of time. Okay, Mom, please make my special dress. I'll make baskets. Certainly, leave it to your mother. I'll make you the prettiest, most wonderful dress you've ever seen. Mom, confident in her sewing skills, spoke with eager enthusiasm. Every season, all children were turning 7 gathered at a temple wearing their best clothing. It was the perfect opportunity for mother to show off her talent. In some ways, it was like competition for mothers. My own mom began preparing the warp with a smile on her face, using thread much thinner than what Thule had practiced with. That thread looks really thin. Mom gave me a confident, conflicted smile as I thought about how long it would take to make cloth with that thread. Well, her baptism is in the summer. Can you imagine how hot it would be without thin clothing? You're making her dress in the winter even though the baptism is in summer? Won't she get bigger by then? There was a lot more food and time to play around in the summer, so I figured most kids would grow a lot during it. What would happen if she grew too much and the dress ended up being too small for her? I can make little changes to it, so that won't be a problem. My main worry is that you're too much smaller than her, mine, and you might not be able to wear the same dress. Fixing it that much will be quite the ordeal. I wonder what will happen next year. What will I do next year? Oof, that does sound rough. Good luck, Mom. Mom resumed weaving the cloth using the thin thread, which looked harder to work with than the wool thread they made earlier. Thule began making baskets to sell. Since my eyes had adjusted well enough to the dark, I decided to start making my papyrus as my first giant step to accomplishing my dreams. If I can just weave these plant fibers together, I'll definitely end up with something like paper. I won't lose to the ancient Egyptians. Let's do this. I put the fibers on the table and thought back to the coasters I had been forced to make back in my Urino days. First, I would try to make a piece of paper about the size of a postcard. I got to work vertically and horizontally, weaving the fibers that were much thinner than the thread my mom was sewing with. I lacked money, skill, and age. This was a duel. I had to win with guts, determination, and more guts. Oh, they're all so thin. Can I barely tell them apart? I can barely tell them apart. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Oh, I messed up. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. The fibers were so thin it wasn't easy to fix any mistake I made. It all just fell apart, frustrated. I continued to duel with the thin fibers. Oh, thank you, Kumo. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome. Kumo Mochi, can I get a shout out? I don't know if you're there, you. Still. Thank you so much for the raid. How are you? How was your stream? Welcome, raiders. Hi. Hello, hello. I'm gonna drink some water real quick. Hello, hello. I hope your stream is great. Hope everyone's doing alright. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, George. Thank you for the gift itself. Thank you, and also thank you for the bits. Sorry that the sound alert didn't go off because we're doing ASMR right now. So the sound alerts don't work. Stream as well. Hope your stream has been well. Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Give you a follow. and thank you. You like my knees? Thank you, thank you. They can, they can. Yes, they can. Here we go. Da 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 da. Let's see here. We are reading Ascendance of a Bookworm. Pretty good book. Yes. I'm almost done with part 3. It's been a long one. Been long. Alright. The fibers were so thin it wasn't easy to fix any mistake I made. It all just fell apart. Frustrated, I continued my duel with the thin fibers, and eventually Tilly stopped making her basket appear over my shoulder. Hey, mine, what are you doing? I'm making papyrus. Tilly looked back and forth between me and my hands. It was written all over her face that she hadn't understood what I just said. Can you tell by looking? I haven't even finished 1 inch wide square yet, so that's fair. Not even I can tell if this is actually going to end up as good as papyrus. Also, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the gifted sub. Me upon you. Thank you, thank you. Also, if you need to rest or eat or sleep after your stream, make sure to, take care of yourself. No worries. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. I hope I had the right units on. Did it go up? I think it went up. Let's see. But yeah. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Yes, it does have the right units. Alright, so back to the book. Mom, continuing to weave the cloth, looked at me fiddling with the plant fibers inside. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Mine, you have the time to play around. Help Tilly make baskets instead. Mine, maybe when I'm not busy. I wasn't playing around and I didn't have time to help Tilly. I wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I was the busiest I had ever been since starting my life as mine. I made another mistake. All because Mom called out to me. Jeez. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Mine, seriously, what are you doing? I told you, making papyrus. I didn't have the mental leeway to respond gently to Tuli's question. So my tone ended up a little sharp as I forced everything on fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. I didn't hate working with my hands, and I was doing this because I wanted to. I just had to stay determined and keep going. Fiddle, 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 fiddle. Mine. It's not getting any bigger. I know that. Tuli commented, comment served as the spark that finally made me yell in frustration. It took me a whole day just to get it the size of a fingertip. Please understand how I must have felt. Hello, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Also, thank you for all the follows. Fiddle, 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 fiddle. The next day I replied, I relied on the determination as well. Just keep going, I told myself as I wove fibers together. I can't let Tully's comment bother me. What's that supposed to be? I can't let them bother me. I can't let them bother me. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Ugh, it's coming apart. I just have to keep going. My heart will break if I try fixing it. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Hey, mine. That's it. I can't do it. Okay. Ancient Egyptians, you win. I lose. Mentally and emotionally exhausted, I clenched a fist around my papyrus and yelled out in frustration. The papyrus had ended up about the size of a tiny note card. I had no idea how many days it would take if I were to try weaving fibers into the size of an actual piece of paper, while keeping them tight enough to actually write on. Naturally, it would be impossible for me to make enough papyrus to bind into a book at that rate. You could tell just by touching my card-size papyrus that I had lost patience with it midway through. The center was tightly woven, but the closer you got to the outside, it was more frayed. The more frayed it was. No way would I have ended up. It would have ended up as paper if I could write on it. No way would it have ended up as paper I could write on. At best, it could be somewhat a messy coaster, not even good enough to write memos on. Ugh, I failed. My papyrus plan failed so hard. The challenge involved in getting the materials, the difficulty of the creation process, and overall time invested were all too great for papyrus to be mass-produced. Even if I finished that sheet of papyrus, it wouldn't lead to me making a book. Be quiet, mind. If you have time to play with plants, weave some baskets. Baskets won't turn into books. I don't know what you're talking about, but you failed, didn't you? Just start making baskets already. Mom was so mad that I gave up and started weaving baskets. It was a lot simpler to weave a basket parts together than the super thin plant fibers. Tully, I'll help you make baskets. Would you mind sharing your stuff? Here, I'll teach you. Tully offered to help with a smile while gathering materials for me, but I just took them and shook my head. That's okay. I already know how. What? Watching Tully blink in confusion out of the corner of my eyes, I started weaving a basket. I lined up the bamboo-esque flat pieces of wood and delicately wove them together, making a tight basket with no gaps. This was really perfect timing for me since I had been wanting a sort of takeout bag for a while. I decided to put my all into making the basket, partly to blow off steam after failing so hard with the papyrus. After making a solid bottom, I calculated how to make the outside of the basket have a pretty design before starting to weave the rest of it. I kept weaving the pieces of wood, taking care not to hurt my hands until the basket was done. It took me 5 whole days just to make a tiny chunk of papyrus, but finished my tote bag within a day. That was pretty good considering how clumsy my tiny child hands were amazing, mine. I didn't know you were a natural at this. Maybe you should try to be an apprentice carpenter. What? That's a little. Mom's eyes beamed with joy, excited to see that her generally useless daughter had unexpected talent. But I had no intention of becoming an apprentice carpenter. I would work at a bookstore, library, or nowhere at all. Though it was a problem that books were so rare that there were no bookstores or libraries to hire me. Uh, why are you so good at this, mine? Tuli compared her baskets with mine and slumped her shoulders, depressed at how much worse hers were. Don't worry, Tuli. You just need to learn how to tighten the gaps and plan ahead to make patterns. I mean, the real difference here is just how much experience we have. Back in my Urano days, I had gotten wrapped up in my mom's arts and crafts kick, where she folded up newspaper advertisements and made baskets out of them. I had never expected that experience to be so useful to me, but well, you never know where life will take you. I can't believe you're better than me, mine. Oh no, looks like I've really hurt Tuli's older sister pride. Right. Miss Gerda taught me while she was babysitting me. Right. Miss Gerda taught me while she was babysitting me. I've been doing this all the time while you're out in the forest. You did a lot of other things while I made baskets. So you're still better than me in most everything, really. I didn't have much experience with children, so I wasn't sure how to put her back into a good mood. I did my best to make up an excuse for why I was so good, but honestly, I wasn't even really sure what I was trying to say myself. Oh, okay, that's right. I wasn't sure what part of that convinced her, but Tuli looked a little relieved. Okay then, I'll make lots of. Okay, someone's being loud. Let's see here. Okay, so what was it? Okay, let's make lots of baskets over the winter and get. Oh, I'll make lots of baskets over the winter and get better than you, mine. Good luck, Tuli. I let out a sigh of relief. Glad to see Tuli's feeling better. It would be harder for me to survive here without Tuli's help. If left on my own, I'd be helpless. So I'm glad she cheered up. Oh, Tuli, you should force it into place a little more. It'll look better that way. Well, it's not like I'm that happy about being good at making baskets. I just want books. I watched Tuli's basket weaving and gave her advice while glancing at my failed papyrus. If papyrus won't work, what should I try making next? Throughout the winter, I thought about what. Also, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Let's see. papyrus won't work, what should I try next? Throughout the winter, I thought about what to do next while continually weaving baskets next to Tuli. Egypt's no good. It's way too hard for a kid like me. What should I do if Egypt won't work? Well, thinking about it, like a textbook, you usually study Mesopotamian culture before Egyptian culture. Okay, that's it. Cuneiform. It's time for clay tablets. Long live the Mesopotamian culture. I remember that even after the flames of war and arson, their clay tablets managed to survive. I'll make clay tablets, carve letters into them, cook them in a furnace, and that will make might just be that. Plus, making tablets out of clay will just look like a kid playing with mud. The adults won't suspect a thing. It's settled. That's what I want to do. Once the snow melts and the spring comes, I'm making clay tablets. Oh, there we go. We finished part 3. Nice. Nice. So she's moving on from the papyrus and trying to make clay tablets. Possibly a better option than trying to make woven paper, I would assume. But we'll see. We'll see. How's everybody doing? Oh my. Uh, Hila, thank you so much. Thank you. Wow, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome, raiders. How is your stream? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hola, hola, hola. Hi, Ben. I'm pretty good, thank you. Hello, hello. This is my secondary account, technically. I mean, yeah. Same old Riza, but this is my other ASMR reading art account. Welcome everybody. You might Some of you might recognize my voice. Also, thank you for the follow. Thank you, thank you. I hope you had a great stream. How's everybody? Hello, hello. Welcome, Raiders. Also, thank you for the gifted sub. Hydrate. Oh, my brain is in shambles. I just finished reading, so I don't know. Exercising those brain cells with reading is been interesting. Elsa, I made it to 1,000. Thank you so much. 1,000 followers. Crazy. I'm currently reading Ascendance of a Bookworm. I just finished part 3 and I'm on to 4, but I am going to take a brain break from that. I never get to raid you, so it's nice to see you on. Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. That was a very, very awesome raid. Also, yeah, without a shout out. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Hope you have a good rest of your night if you need to rest or eat or just chill with your mind at ease and whatnot. It's always nice to see you. Alright, the knees. Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I think their name is KV Art. Really good idea. I wish there was more like assets like this. Maybe one kind of like the one on the table with like your legs crossed, but animated would be really nice. That'd be kind of cool. But thank you again for the follows. Welcome. I forgot what I was gonna say. I could continue reading the short story that I left off earlier. I'm gonna find it in my history, though. I forgot where it went. Right, Strawberry Gin Under the Sea. That's what I was reading. A short story. Which is a really interesting title. Strawberry Jam Under the Sea. Under the sea. Under the sea. But yes, reading, as people say, graphic design is my passion, reading is my passion. Or I'm trying to make it my passion again. I used to read a lot. And then I kind of just stopped. Yeah, trying to pick it back up. As well as drawing. I'm going to be making emotes for this channel. Still in the works though. So, yeah. Let's see. Can't remember what or where I left off in this short story. Also, this is a donathon. I totally forgot to mention. This has been going on for a while. I've been doing it between my main channel and my second channel. But I did take a bit of a break from streaming last week because, you know, life happens. I just moved recently, so I didn't really feel up for it. But now I'm back, feeling great, energetic, ready to get back to it, so yeah. Hope everyone's doing alright. hopefully you enjoy this story. Every time I read a new part, I guess in the next stream I will give a synopsis of what's happened in the story so far. So if you miss anything next time, I'll be sure to fill you in if you're interested in Ascendance of a Bookworm, or you can just watch the anime, because it is an anime. I'm reading the web novel of it. Actually, it's a physical book, so I think it's just a book series. But yeah, I'm reading it online on J Novel website. So, yeah. A good anime, if you're into, like, the best way I can compare it to is subtract the romance and spice and wolf and just leave like the atmosphere. It's kind of like that. So if you're into less action, more story and dialogue, and kind of like that medieval atmosphere, fantasy, then it's a good watch. It's very good. Very, very good. But yeah, actually, that's not true. Towards the end of the series, at least the anime, it gets, there's a little bit of action, but not what probably most people are used to. It's more of a magic sort of thing, or fantasy sort of thing, so, you know. Magic, fantasy, less of like hardcore action. Okay. Let's see here. Chapter. We're on part 4. Did I actually close out of it? Why did I do that? I did close out of it. Why? Oops. There it is. Sentence of a bookworm. Okay. So we're on. Alright. Right, I'm not signed in over here. I'm signed in over here. Right. Okay. So, part 4. Let's see here. That's actually really cool. So, every book, there's a free part, which is nice. Alright, so Ascendance of a Bookworm, part 4, volume 1. Or volume 1, part 4. Lots of parts. Let's see here. The sweet taste of winter. It's sunny, Dad, it's sunny. Come, wake up. Mine, Tuli's excited voice rang through the dark bedroom, and soon I was shaken awake. There had been a harsh snowfall for the past few days, but upon waking up, saw dazzling sunlight streaming through the creek between our window doors. Wow, long time no seen, son. Tilly jumped off the bed in excitement and threw open the window covers without a care in the world for how cold it would be. A blue sky free of clouds stretched in all directions, and the snow swept the city, gleamed beneath the sun. Look, the weather's perfect. Perfect. You have a day off, right, Dad? We gotta hurry. Yeah, Dad, after scrunching his face from the bright sun hitting him head on, jumped out of bed. Everything following that happened fast. Tuli, Dad scarfed down breakfast, got some things ready, and hurriedly dashed outside. I was just getting to the table as Tuli went through the door, wearing as much warm clothing as possible. By my mind, we'll be back, we'll come back with lots of Prus? What does that mean? What does that word mean? Let's see. It doesn't seem like it's a word. I don't know what this is. To come or to be seen, come in sight or to be in view, to be visible, to appear. Okay. Maybe it's like a fantasy object, fruit, I don't know. Maybe it's something in their world. I don't really know. I waved Tuli goodbye while blinking in confusion. What the heck is a Peru? Exactly. I searched mind's memories and learned that it was a fruit that produced a sweet white drink that tasted really good. Tilly said she'd bring some back, but I wasn't really sure how she planned for that. Here's breakfast, mine. I need to go wash the dishes. Those two will be bringing back proofs for us, so I'll be busy all afternoon. Mom sliced up bread that couldn't cut or break on my own and dunked it into soup. The bread had been baked until it was hard and black to prevent mold, and last night's leftover soup with a side of milk was our normal breakfast. Oof. Imagine eating soup with burnt bread. Love that. That is yummy, delicious. Doesn't that just sound so awesome? But you gotta do what you gotta do to survive winter, I guess. Gotta do what you gotta do. Whoops. A frowny face. Let's see here. The only thing I had never done. Oh wait. Before I could finish climbing onto my chair, Mom gathered up the dirty clothes that had built up over the snowstorm and left the house. I sat in now silent kitchen and chewed away at my breakfast alone. Once done, I began making baskets, and the only thing I have ever done that anyone complimented me for. Dad and Julie must have known when Mom could be getting home as they got back with broad grins right after she finished preparing for lunch. Seemed like their mission had been a success. We're back. Mom, mine, we got 3 Prus. Welcome home, you two. That's fantastic. I have the dishes already set up. Mom pointed to the particularly deep bowl and went to get a especially thin piece of dry wood from the storage room. It kind of, the kind used to start a fire. Tilly used it to start a fire in the furnace and then poked a Pru over the bowl. The moment she did, the outer layer burst around her finger and thick white juice flowed out. Wow, it smells so good. A sweet scent drifted through our home as the fruit juice slowly filled the bowl. I swallowed hard and it having been the first time I had smelled something sweet in a while. So it's like a coconut, I'm assuming. But you can't really, you had to really like open a coconut. You can't just cut it open. This was definitely the kind of thing that would give me good memories. Tuli grabbed the bowl, making sure not to let any juice spill out, and Dad used the pressure weights to crush the sliced fruit. Fruits are amazing, Tuli explained to me. Their juice is super sweet and tasty, and you can get oil from them. Even the leftovers can be used to feed livestock. We don't have any animals, so we take ours to Lot's place and trade it for eggs. I bet a lot of people fight over them. Uh-huh. You can only find them in the snow on sunny days like this, so lots of us in the city go to the forest right away in the morning. Everyone wants as many as possible, but gathering them is really hard. Hard how? Tully poked a hole in the second prue with a thin stick and once again slowly poured the juices into the bowl. The only thing I could do was was to hold the bowl down so it didn't fall over. To pick prunes from trees, you have to heat up the branch, holding it to soften it. But you can't use any fire when up on top of the tree. The tree's special powers will proof the fire away. So you have to take off your gloves and warm it with your bare hands. Interesting. You have to take your gloves off in the winter this cold? That does sound rough. That was a one-way road to frostbite. Even if Dad and Tuli took turns, heating up branches with your bare hands was just terrible work. You can't wait until noon to pick them. Won't it be better when it's warmer? Nope, nuh-uh. You can only pick prunes before noon. Tilly handed the drained prune to Dad and picked up the third one. She poked another hole into it and began squeezing the juice. Once noon comes and the sun rises, sunlight falls onto the forest, and like the prune leaves start shining, and the trees start shaking. The trees all start making swishy, swashy sounds. The leaves shine and the trees shake on their own, and they make swishy, swashy noises? What? Despite Tully's explanation, I couldn't imagine it at all. Once the leaves start making noise, the fruit trees start stretching around the sun. They grow taller than the rest of the trees in the forest, and then they start shaking like girls swinging hair around. Like a girl swinging her hair around. Like rustle, rustle, swish, and sway. They stretch and they start swaying around? Right. The light hits the branches while it shakes around, and all the fruits we couldn't gather shoot away like pew. Once they're all gone, the fruit trees shrink like it's melting, and then it's gone. They shoot away, and then the trees disappear. That's like a weird kind of tree. That's really all I had to say on the matter. What a weird tree. My weak imagination wasn't enough to visualize what was happening at all. Okay, done. Want to try a little? Tilly poured most of the fruit juice into the jar, but left the little, left a little in the bowl. She drank 2 sips from it, then handed me the bowl. Oh, thank you so much for that raid. Hello. Is it indeed Terry? Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome, raiders. Thank you so much. How is your stream? I'm gonna get a shout out for indeed Terry. Okay, thank you. Hope you've been well. I am in the midst of reading Ascendant of a Bookworm. Yes. Stream was good. We did ASMR tarot readings and chatting and saw you were reading Ascendant of a Bookworm, which is literally one of my all-time favorite isekai. Same. Glad you enjoy it. We got some Ascendant of a Bookworm fans. Awesome. Hope that went well. Your stream. Anything interesting come up through the tarot readings? Let's see. Let me give you a follow. Excuse me. I may or may not be getting EP. May or may not be getting an EP sleepy. We got some good luck in our chat. It looks like according to the reading, that's good. That's always good. The last time I had a tarot reading, it was actually had 2 this year. One around like February or January, and it was kind of like I guess the present wasn't that exciting, but the future was, at least. So in the past was kind of a little vague, but I'm very hopeful. It seems like I have some more maturing to do, which I'm probably aware of. But maybe the future is bright, so only time will tell. Alrighty. Where did I leave off? Alright, the light hits. Alright, so she was explaining how the trees work. So, oh, right. This was in, the anime. Okay. Okay, guys. This was actually, this actually is in the show. I remember now. They're actually explaining how those trees work. So, I'm not sure if it's the same tree, but in the anime, there was these magical trees that would sprout. But they weren't really good, though. I remember them being good. A good thing when they sprouted. I think there was something different. The trees felt like they were alive or something like that. Let's see. Okay, done. You want to try a little? Totally poured most of the fruit juice into a jar, but left a little in the bowl. She drank 2 sips from it, then handed me the bowl. I took 2 little sips, like Tuli did. A thick, sweet flavor filled my mouth, and on instinct, I grinned ear to ear. This is what happiness tastes like. It's like thick coconut milk. Oh, really? Is that a setting? Well, welcome. Stomp. Stomp on Steve. Minecraft Steve. Oh no. Um, yeah, it's fine, but welcome. You made it anyway, so that's all that matters. uh, let's see here. Also, thank you for the follows. The moment I thought about drinking more, Julie said, "We don't get a lot of this fruit juice, so we need to really treasure it. Don't drink it all at once." Okay, I'll take it slow. Dad, are you going to squeeze this one too? Tilly held up the cloth bag and peered inside it. Yep, said Dad as he crushed the paru a bit by bit with the pressure weights. Paru oil could be used for cooking and lamps, which made it kind of like olive oil. Tilly, let me see. I peer into the bag from the side, wanting to see what Prus look like after getting their oil extracted. Inside, I saw what looked like okara, which was Japanese food made from soybean pulp. It smelled sweet. This stuff smells really sweet. Can you really not eat it? I stuck a hand into the bag and experimentally plopped some out of it into my mouth. Mine, that's bird food. Tilly hurriedly took the bag away from me and told me to spit this stuff out, but I just chewed it thoughtfully. The squeezed dry stuff was rough and not nearly as sweet as it smelled. Overall, I understood why it wasn't exactly considered food great for humans. Yeah, I do. What is it called? Trumpy? Yeah, there was these trees in the anime that were like not. When everyone showed up, wasn't it like they would destroy it or something or run away? Can't quite remember the beginning of the few episodes. Yeah. Right, so the squeezed dried stuff wasn't as good. In a good way, I took a bit of the stuff and dropped it into the fruit juice bowl to hydrate a little. What are you doing, Mine? I think it'll be edible if I do this. I'm telling you, that's bird food. It's not something for people to eat. I nodded and stuck some of it into my mouth. It was actually pretty good. If I mixed the leftovers with the fruit juice, it ideally added some eggs and milk. It probably would make a good okara pancake. It's good. It's not good. I pushed a bit of Peru leftovers mixed in with the fruit juice into Tilly's mouth. At first she yelled, "What are you doing?" But after a bit she started chewing with a conflicted look on her face. Okay, let's go. Tilly and I left to go to Lut's house. It was the 6th floor of the house directly across from ours and the circular cluster of buildings that made up our neighborhood. I did my best climbing up and down the 2 sets of stairs in order to trade the leftovers of the pearls for eggs. It was pretty rough climbing the 6 floors to his place after climbing down the 5 from mine. I'll make the pancake for them after the trade. Excuse me. Let's hear. We'll trade you these for eggs. I held out a bag with a full smile, but let's just frown a little. We've already got enough animal feed. Got any meat instead? My brothers keep stealing all of mine. Everyone spent a lot more time inside during the winter, so it was more likely for them to steal his food. Lutz grumbled about being hungry all the time. Tilly just gave the sympathetic smile and said, it's hard to fight back when they're so much bigger, but really, it was hard to describe how bad it felt to be hungry all the time. I held the bag out, planning to help solve this problem. Okay, let's. Why not just eat this? Who would eat bird food? His reaction was expected. No one around here ate it like okara. It's edible if you make it right. Huh? It's only an edible because you squeeze all the juices out. They taste really good if you make them properly. Even the leftovers. Let's look at Thule in disbelief. He was definitely thinking that there was nobody in the world who would eat bird food. Seriously? You're just being wasteful. Sure, you could eat the fruit and be done, but it's way more efficient to use them to make juice, oil, and bird feed. Nobody wastes the fruit by just eating them on the spot. I can't believe anyone who would work so hard to get the fruit just eat it without using it properly. There's nobody dumb enough to do that in this whole entire town. Mine, except you, I guess. I didn't eat the fruit itself, though. Maybe that's just the only way he can understand. I put a hand on my chin and thought about Lut's harsh rejection. You have enough bird feed now, right? The best thing for humans to eat. And the best thing is for we humans to eat. Like, I'm saying the leftovers are so dry nobody would eat them. They only get so dry because people squeeze as much oil as possible out of them. If you put a little work in, they're fine to eat. Mine, Let's show no sign of changing his mind no matter what. I'd need to use a little force like I did with Thule to change his mind. He would definitely understand after eating them. I clenched my fists with resolve and ready to execute my plan when all of a sudden Thule weakly hung her head and spoke. I know it's hard to believe, but they really are edible. It tasted so good, kind of shocked me. Wait, seriously? She made you eat bird food, Tilly? Let's look at Tilly with eyes full of sympathy. That's rude. She said it tasted good. I think you just need to taste it yourself. Do you have any fruit juice left over, Lutz? I walked into Lutz's house and put some of our leftovers into a nearby bowl, then mixed it in with about 2 teaspoons worth of Lutz's share of fruit juice. After a brief test, I nodded to myself, and it did indeed taste good. Open wide, Lutz. Likely due to having seen me eat some, Lutz timidly opened his mouth. I placed the juice-mixed leftovers into his mouth. He closed his mouth, chewed it a bit, then opened his eyes wide in surprise. See? Sweet and tasty, isn't it? I puffed out my chest with pride. To myself. But all of a sudden, Lust's older brother stopped just watching suspiciously from afar and instead swarmed down upon us. Sweet? Tasty. Seriously, let me try some. Nuts. His older brothers all jammed their fingers into the small bowl. No matter how hard Lutz tried to hide the bowl or run away, they were just too bigger than them. Not only could he not run away, he couldn't even dodge them. Hey, let go. Don't pick me up. What kind of older brother would steal his little brother's stuff? Your stuff is my stuff. Share your tasty food with everyone, Lutz. Alright, I got it. Lutz's resistance was futile. His 3 older brothers held him down and stole the whole bowl. they jammed their fingers in, and then the moment it was empty. If he was, if his every meal ended up like this, I would understand why Lutz would complain. Ah, my pure, my Peru. Tasty. Is this really bird food? Lutz's older brother completely ignored his cries and looked at me, eyes open wide, in surprise, just like Lutz were. This might be my chance. I couldn't make something even better here. For real? They took the bait, despite how disgusted they had all looked at the idea of eating bird food. They were now on hands and feet asking for more, likely due to hunger. Ah, but I might need some help since I'm so weak and all. Alright, leave it to me, Lutz enthusiastically flexed his arms, seeing that his older brothers all rushed forward and pushed him out of the way. You're not getting it all to yourself, Lutz. We'll help too. We'll help too, mine. Yep. I'm a lot stronger than Lutz. Okay, I want you three to get a metal pan ready for baking. Lutz, can you get ingredients ready? And Ralph, can you mix them? Oh, and it wouldn't be fair to just see Lutz's juice, so to use Lutz's juice, so let's all use a little bit of everyone's. Come on, let's see the juice, no hiding. I clapped my hands together while giving Lutz and his brothers cooking instructions. I was too small and weak to do much, so it was up to these hungry young men to do the work for me. Lutz, would you get 2 eggs and some milk? Ralph, mix them together with that spatula over there. Sasha and Sag, heat the pan in the furnace. Lutz prepared the ingredients for me as I put them one by one in a bowl. Ralph began mixing them and the whole with the wooden spatula. Zasha and Seg behind us got the metal pan and heated it up in the furnace. Okay, that should be good, Lutz. Do you have butter? Lutz held out some butter, which I scooped with a spoon and put into the metal pan after climbing onto a somewhat tall chair. The butter sizzled on the pan and melted, filling the air with a nice smell. I then used a big spoon to pour the batter Ralph had mixed in the bowl. It hissed, cooking, and the butter scent was joined by the sweet smell of the paru. Since I was using the okara-esque leftovers in place of wheat, it ended up baking into more of a flat cookie than a pancake, but it was still basically what I had expected. And that's how you do it. Would you all work together to make more? After showing them how to make one, I got off the chair and let the tall older brothers take care of everything. They had figured out what to do already, so they immediately borrowed the cooking tools from me and started making their own. When they get bumpy, it means they're ready. You should turn that one over. Right. Sasha flipped it over and I saw that it was cooking nicely. I heard everyone swallow hard. Move. This one is over here. You can cook another one in the open spot. Once it had cooked well enough, he moved it aside and poured more butter and batter in its place. After I checked to make sure that they were cooking properly, we moved them from the pan to a plate, stacking one on top of another. Ta-da! Simple okara pancakes. I held the plate and puffed out my chest with pride. a hang once again. Oh, we have another illustration. Alright. Here we go. Give me 1 second to screenshot this. So this is them making the pancakes or the okara. Very yummy. Also, thank you for the postures, Jack. Thank you, thank you. Oh, what time is it? Oh my god, it's 3 a.m. That's crazy. 3 a.m. How long have I been? No, hold on. Time flies. Time flies. Wow. Okay, maybe I will save this for the afternoon. I'll save this for later today. I'll be back, no worries. I'm excited to keep reading. Alrighty guys. I'll see you guys soon. Have a good night. Thank you so much for the raids. We had quite a few raids today. Make sure to get some rest. I'll see you guys. Join the Discord if you haven't. Also, the Discord link actually doesn't work, so hold on, let me fix that. I see no disapproving opinions on the new design, I guess. Seems like everyone likes it, so that's nice, because I really like it. Very much enjoy it, and it's fun to draw, so... Alright, so let's see here. Let's fix this Discord link. There we go. Join the Discord if you haven't already. I'll see you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for listening to me. Alrighty. We're gonna raid somebody. We gotta spread the love. Excuse me. Am I tired? I think I could definitely lay down. I've been up at the desk for a... Oh, oops. I put my phone down near the 3DO cord. My bad. Probably not the smartest decision. Tends to do that sometimes. But yeah. Alrighty, I found someone to raid. Somebody that I used to know. Oh wait, they're sleeping. Never mind. Whoops. I guess I gotta find another person. Alright. Let's see. A lot of people sleeping. EP people. EP. I guess I could stay for a little bit longer. I'm just tired of reading. You guys wanna just chit chat? Just a chit chat. The reading is a bit straining on the mind. Especially since I already started drinking my energy drink. I know when I lay down I'm probably not going to be able to sleep. Definitely no sleep is happening. But I could get up to stretch a little bit. I wouldn't mind that. Don't mind that at all. Also, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a long ass day, but I am in this room now a while and I feel like I want to do it more often or longer. Yeah. I still have a bit of stuff to do in the case, so maybe I could play that. I don't know. Hello. How's it going? What could I do here? It's tomorrow, Thursday, or technically today's Thursday. Right, Thursday. Wow, this month is almost over already. It's crazy. Thank you for the follow as well. How's it going? Hi, hello. have 72 hours to finish that chapter though, so I'll be back tomorrow to read it before the rent. Yeah, it expires on that chapter. Because I don't feel like purchasing the book, so renting it is pretty the way to go, I guess. I'm not really a physical copy kind of person either. Don't have a bookshelf, so. What an interesting name. And I guess the mom's name is Effa, I think. That's what the name of the mother is. So, Effa, they haven't revealed the father's name though, so I'm not really sure. Oh, it was revealed, wasn't it? They said his name was... I can't remember. And then you have mine, Lutz, and then Ralph, and a few other characters. I guess they had more siblings. So there were 2 new characters in that last chapter. Yeah. I know page turning for some people is a really nice trick, but I actually don't have any. Oh, I do have a book. I have a few books, but I don't know where they are yet. I don't think that has been looked at. Tomorrow in the afternoon I will need to rest in a bit. I'm just going until I get tired. Going until the energy drink wears off. the nature. I think it's great. Fantastic invention. Technically one emote done, but it was just a test. The hair looked all fucked up. I'm gonna practice some more. It was one of the gasm emotes, but I don't know if Twitch likes us emotes. I don't think they like those. I don't think they like those, so I'll probably have to add it to 7TV. Doesn't really like certain emotes for some reason. I've seen like all kinds of emotes get removed that aren't really that bad, so I'm not too sure how it will go down. It also takes forever. It took them like so long to approve one of my emotes before that I didn't end up using it because of how long it takes. And I don't unlock follower emotes until like 90 days of streaming as an affiliate, so that's like, oh, that's a long time. Very long time. Is it too sensitive? It's like every time I talk really close, it goes to the red. Meaning that it's super loud. Make sure to turn down the volume if it's too loud. Oh my god. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for the bits. But yeah, I'm excited to get caught up with the books. Very excited. And it seems like they come out pretty regularly, so that's nice. That's always nice. I'm sure it will be a while until I'm caught up to the next book releases at the end of May. But I'm sure if I read it on my own, I'd probably be done pretty quickly, but reading out loud is a little bit different. I'm trying to give it a break. I'm sure I'll be fine. But yeah, it was a lot of reading today. I did stay pretty hydrated during the whole thing, so that's always important. Water, keep the throat lubricated and hydrated, you know? So, that's always nice. But yeah, reading, I really like it a lot. I don't know. I guess I've been missing out, huh? On reading. It's kind of fun. Like, it's funny, I don't really read, what's called, I don't really watch a lot of stuff. But there's something about reading that is like, I don't know, maybe there was a reason why it was one of my bigger hobbies. Because I should get back into it. I really enjoy it. It's a little bit of a challenge to read it out loud, but I'm really enjoying it. So that's nice. finished the anime. I have like 4 more episodes. I think 3 more. I just stopped watching after I knew it wasn't really like I wasn't gonna get like the full story. Once I realized there wasn't more seasons, I stopped. I decided to get into the books instead. All right. I guess I should make a redeem for ASMR triggers. Let's see. Technically today, but yeah. Yeah, technically, yeah, yesterday. I didn't really do much of a debut for it because I'll save, I'll probably do that sometime this year. A debut. I don't know. I'm not too big on debut things. Alright, and one of my mods are getting the Minecraft server set up again, so we'll be able to play Minecraft multiplayer SMP. Oh yeah, there will be. We're getting the bounce SMP. That thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a mod pack. Mod pack. Yeah. Pretty good one. It has a lot of cool stuff. Bounce. Bounce SMP. Alright, I guess I will head out. I'll be back later. I'll raid someone new, actually. I'll be dubber. Dubber, 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 dubber. Oh god. What's that? A stomach gurgle slash. I hope that wasn't a burp. It didn't quite feel like it, but my stomach is always making noises. Anyway, V-Dubber. We'll raid one that's doing ASMR. Okay. One perhaps that we haven't rated before. That isn't ending to look at this person.